Hey guys. Hello. Welcome to a live That Christian panel. I hope everybody's staying warm. It's good to be back with these guys. I'm here with Michelle from Force of Light.
Hello. And
How are
I
you
just
doing?
want to point out that it was a pure day of victory for me on Monday. I had the inauguration, and then sorry, Odin, my Buckeyes beat the Catholics in the championship. The team that had a revival the last 2 years, go check it out. Ohio State football won the national championship. So I'm in full celebration this week.
You act as if I care about college football in any way.
There were not enough Hail Marys to go around for them to win.
Oh no, not the puns.
Michelle, last night I was at one of my gig jobs, and this couple, they asked me, like, you and your husband watching the championships or playoffs or whatever it was, and I was like, is it basketball? And they were like, okay, no.
Obviously, you are not.
No. We've also got Brahma Bowl. You guys nobody told me to wear the MAGA hat today. Could have pulled
It's
it out.
celebration week.
It is
Yeah.
I mean,
celebration
we
week.
just keep winning and winning and winning. So, and now that the hat is not frowned upon quite as much as it used to be. So,
Are
I'm
you
going to be
finding that
wearing
to
it
be
quite a bit.
true?
Yes.
Maybe the hair one is frowned upon, but my normal one, yeah, that's what I wear when I go out. So,
The one with the hair is the one you
yeah, the hair one's still a little bit wild for people.
I'll show you guys what I do have in front of me because I was showing it off last time. I've got some Trump bucks. Look at
There
that.
you go.
Legal
Nice.
tender. It's not really legal tender, but they say it is.
Hey, he's in the office now, so for all we know, there could eventually be some actual legal tender that comes out.
Somebody sent me these. I just thought they were so funny. I want to take them to a woke place and try to use them to buy something. And then we're here with Odin. How are you, Mr. Odin of OMB Reviews?
I am doing splendidly. I'm actually gonna have to jump off in a second, real quick, because I have to tell my son goodnight.
That's okay.
That's just
When you gotta go.
when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Well, welcome. We're glad you guys are here with us tonight. I asked them if we could do a panel discussion because I had kind of been talking with Michelle a little bit offline about this whole idea of online. If you're on X, you sort of can't avoid this lately. Is this discussion of so-called woke right? Is there a woke right? What do people mean when they use that phrase? And I thought this is something I want to talk about all of you guys with anyway, whether there's a camera or not. And so I don't even know if we agree or disagree on some of these things. So I think it'll make for an interesting discussion. Michelle, have you seen this phrase more, and if so, how would you define the way in which it's being used? Like, what is it describing?
Woke right. When I hear it, I kind of think of people on the right who are using kind of the same tactics and have kind of the same mindset as what we would deem like the woke left. Let me think of how to further explain that, but that's where I'm going to start. Right there. Really, it's like if there is like they're very similar. Let's just say they're very similar. They use the same tactic. They may seem different on paper, but they use like the same tactics. And you let me know if you think this is wrong. I feel that they're both definitely the authoritarians kind of each group.
Yes, I would agree. I think that when that term is being used, it is being used to describe authoritarians. You said something about tactics, and so when I've seen people try and pick apart what is meant by this phrase online, I've noticed that some people are saying, like their tactics are similar to the woke, and then other people are saying, and all their ideologies also similar to the woke. Like
In ways.
in some ways, yes. Um, have you heard this phrase at all in your corner of X, Brahma?
I mean, I've heard it. I do follow James Lindsay, so I've seen a lot of that discussion going on, but I've kind of blocked it out because, I mean, my ex gets filled with hockey and politics for the most part. So I've seen a little bit of the stuff that's been going on kind of in our sphere, and then I've watched a few things that you've put out there on woke right. I
Mhm.
think the first time I heard it mentioned was probably on one of your streams when you were questioning whether it should be called the woke right. And I probably agree that it probably should have a different name, but
Yes.
that's kind of what has become the common parlance for it. So I guess we're stuck with it for now. So
Yes, I have said that before. I don't like the phrase for lots of reasons. One is just tactically, I think it's very confusing because when I talk about woke, I've specifically have always I'm talking about social justice ideology, which is a uniquely leftist thing, and I'm talking about this belief system um, that the world is best viewed as this competition for power among identity groups and that we need to redistribute power based on identity, and that the way it's taken over the West has been a uniquely left thing. However, I've been talking with some people who are trying to sell me on the phrase, and they're like, but there are ways in which this group, no matter what you call them, this what seems to be an emerging ideology, that they're similar because they do talk about ethno-nationalism. They do talk about redistributing power based on your race. They do have some of the similar rules, like race rules and sex rules, like gender rules that the woke have. So let me just give you some examples because maybe this will help you understand what ideology I'm talking about, at least when I see that phrase and I think I know what it means. This is what I'm thinking it refers to. It's the people who are in my comments saying stuff like, oh, sorry, something was talking to me. Oh, it's my security system. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
She's
I'm like,
scary.
something is happening, or
Oh,
come on.
just
Like,
like,
I'm afraid I can't allow that, Keri.
yeah, just scary. Her voice always creeps me out. Okay, so here's an example. Do you guys remember, how the woke have all these rules where they're like, men can't have an opinion on abortion or
Yes.
birth or anything because they're not women and only women
Right.
get to speak on abortion, right? Or they'll say things like, white people don't get to have an opinion on what's racist or not. Only people of color get to have an opinion on what's racist, because you're not
You
a person
can't be
of color.
racist to white people.
Right, right. And so suddenly, in the past few months, I've started to see more and more of these accounts online who are saying similar things, but they're changing the identity group. So they're saying things like women don't get to have an opinion on what makes a male alpha or not because they're not men. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Of course, it doesn't make my opinion right, but I'm a human being. I'm an individual. I can have an opinion on whatever I want. Why are you trying to say you don't get to choose, your race or your gender, whatever your identity group that you're in means that you don't get to speak? So in that way, I think both the tactic is similar because they're trying to say, you don't get to have a voice because of your identity, and the ideology is similar in that way because it's this whole hierarchy based on identity groups. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's gatekeeping.
Yes. And so here, let me give an example. This is someone, now you guys don't have to feel compelled to comment on him as an individual, but because I get this question a lot, Christian Larson says, can anyone share who they think of as woke right? I'm curious. So here's someone who I was really cautious about this, and I gave a long period of just watching and saying, maybe he's just misguided on some things. I don't really know what's going on with this guy, but I'm going to keep watching. And now I'm at the point where I've been quiet about it. I've thought about it for a long time, and I'm like, no, this guy is saying objectively ridiculous and racist things that sound kind of woke to me. And so this is Elijah Schaffer. I was on his show once even, but he's been saying stuff like this. He says, Black people are not Americans because originally they were slaves. Quote, amendments were made and there was adjustments that gave you citizenship and the right to vote, but that didn't make you an American. It just gave you American citizenship. And there's a couple more I have from him.
Is that the full context of that? Because again,
Let's watch it.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, because I just always, whenever I hear quotes from people, I'm always, I think it's good to be skeptical whenever you hear any quote without having like the full context, because it's like, for all I know, he's mocking something or he's, trying to make a
30 seconds
point
before and after. Yeah.
Right.
Because I could see Alex Stein saying something like this as an actual joke.
Right.
But Alex doesn't actually believe that. Yeah. Elijah?
And you're not an American because originally you were slaves and you didn't even have value in terms of the political system. Then they were given like 3/8 of the value, right? Of
3/5.
3/5. Thank you. In my world, it was 3/8, but I live in a utopia. No, I'm just kidding. But it was like 3/5, and you go down, and it's like then amendments were made, and there was adjustments that gave you citizenship and the right to vote, but it didn't make you an American. It just gave you American citizenship. It gave you legal right, and that's why it doesn't take a genius to notice that Black people and white people in America look, act, behave fundamentally different, both individually and collectively. Now, that's not to say that Black people aren't valuable in the eyes of God. It's not to say that white people are hetter than Black people, even if they are. No, I'm kidding. And you're not an American because...
So he's like, it doesn't mean they're better. It's just, to me, I mean, he's obviously saying, but they're not American. That's why we're so different, is because they were made citizens, but they're not American.
Yeah. It's not like he said it really poor. It's like, I could see what he might try to say, but it was not said well. He did not say what I like my mindset was they were not American in that they did not like take on American values by the simple act of being allowed to vote, basically, right? Like just because you're given citizenship, just because you're given the right to vote does not then make you, culturally speaking, someone who's going to be of a similar mind as the rest of the people of a specific nation, right? Like if I went to a different country and they decided, oh, we're going to give you the right to vote and everything, but I have no other connection to them culturally speaking, well, there's going to be that disconnect there. But he didn't say that, right? And that's the problem, is that it seems like he was trying to say something smarter than he actually said, which was, I think, a bit idiotic.
Well, I think his argument is, and maybe I'm wrong, but based on some of these other things I'm going to show you, is that it's not just a matter of like the first generation immigrants and whether or not culturally they are behaving as Americans or they're Americans culturally. Right. Mm-hmm. But that assimilation isn't even real. And that, for example, a Black American today whose family's been here for generations, who's never lived in any other country, doesn't speak any other language, is culturally like not an American. That's what I thought he was saying. Like they're not similar, but that's ridiculous. I lived in Tanzania for a while. A Black person who's an American has nothing in common with culturally with people in Tanzania. Like if they have things culturally in common with Americans because that's where they're born and raised, and the music they listen to and the food they eat and the community. They have more in common with their community that's closest to them. And then, you by degrees, you move out from that, from your community to your city, to your state, to your nation. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misinterpreting what he said wrong, but can I show you this as well? Because I think this clarifies a little more. Kangman Lee asked, what is the woke right? And Elijah answered, it's a euphemism from the establishment and Zionist kosher right and classical liberals and atheists to alienate Christian fundamentalists and white nationalists, the real MAGA original supporters, from getting platformed by the major right-wing networks and podcasts. It's silly. White nationalists, real MAGA? White nationalists are real MAGA? Not in my world.
What the hell happened to this guy? I don't remember him ever really speaking like that before.
And let's go on to Christian fundamentalists. Like really? No, thanks. I'll give that to him.
There's neither Jew nor Greek.
Yes,
that's all you have to say, and any sense of whatever his sense of Christianity is completely invalid.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the stuff in the past few months from him. I think I have one more here. This is one where he's talking about, and I think this one he's kind of trying to be sly here, but he says, the modern right is so bad at combating Marxists. See, a lot of these guys who are saying all this kind of stuff lately, they are saying, some of them explicitly, he doesn't say this explicitly here, but a lot of them are saying it explicitly, that fascism is the solution to Marxism, to communism. Like they're saying there's only two options and we have to pick fascism. Well, he doesn't say it explicitly here, but he says the modern right is so bad at combating Marxism, we must look at who has successfully defeated it in the past. Assuming that Hitler is the worst person in history, he did successfully eradicate communism. But he didn't. That's why we're fighting it right now. He didn't eradicate it. So we should study at least how he did that and consider whether our current approach of losing should be reevaluated. Scroll down a bit. Is anything he did worse than communism? Oh, they're equally evil. That's what the whole certainly not. This is my opinion on this kind of stuff, that it's like planting the idea in the mind of the follower that like maybe fascism is the answer. Like maybe that is. And so I've just seen a lot of this. Now I had him queued up because people are always like, give me an example. I'm like, okay, here. And he's got a bunch of these. And Randy says, Schaefer's an effing racist. Stop giving attention. Well, I have to though, Randy, because otherwise people they are not seeing it. They don't know. They're like, what are you talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. He's someone who I think is, whether he's doing it cynically, or maybe he doesn't sincerely believe this stuff, but I think he's someone who is certainly, if you look in his comments, he's cultivating an audience of people who are outright saying stuff like fascism is the solution to communism. And I think it's concerning. Do you see any of this stuff in your timeline, Odin? We asked Brahma if he did.
As far as like people like Schaefer saying this stuff?
Yeah.
No, I really don't. And it's probably because I stay in the following tab. I anytime it switches over to the For You, I very quickly move away because I have never found an algorithm that's ever given me something that I actually want to watch. It's usually something that either is going to put me down a really stupid rabbit hole or just something I don't want to really even see. So I basically just stick in the following tab. And so, yeah, I don't really see any of it in any way.
Yeah. I think I'm seeing probably because I think I'm seeing a lot more of it because if you even ask the question, like the title of today's show, what is the woke right? What are people talking about? Let's figure it out. It draws out people who are then saying to me, I'm getting a lot of comments now. Like I used to get a lot of, and I still do get a lot of hateful comments from the woke, and they call me a racist and fringe right. And they call me all kinds of stuff, transphobe, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm getting this other contingent of people, and they are calling me a Jew, and that I suck Jewish COCK, and that I'm most recently, here's some of the comments, is you hate your race. What? I don't hate my race. These people over here say I hate every other race.
Well, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker on that though, Keri. Why with all and they kind of out themselves because even there, he's talking about who's talking about Jewish people, and all of a sudden they're throwing in you do that with Jewish people, or who's talking about that? Why is that always on your mind?
Yes. It's so weird. I could be tweeting about something as I don't mention Jewish or anti-Semitism at all, and then they'll say you suck Jewish CSK. I'm like, okay. Now at first a lot of these accounts I was like, these are all sort of some of these are probably bots, and it's all, some of these are leftists pretending to be sort of the stereotype of what a right-winger is, like a psyop. But the more I've watched it evolve, I think there's actually more people. Even when I posted about the show today on Facebook, I had someone say, I was just talking with a guy at the bar about how great the election went, and we were talking about leftists, and then all of a sudden he just started spewing all this stuff at me about the Jews, and I was like, what? Wait, slow your roll. Where's this coming from? So anyway, I wanted to get, I guess I just wanted to see what you guys are seeing. Do you think it's overblown? Do you think it's overblown?
Well, and let's go back to the beginning of you asking the question, kind of what is the woke right? And me saying they have similar tactics as the woke left, but that's actually something they're in agreement with, because something that's very common, the people that we would consider, that I would consider, if you want to use the term woke right, whatever you want to call it, but in that group, they really seem to despise Jewish people. And how is that any different than the college kids on those campuses in support for Hamas? And they're doing the same thing. They really actually have similar vibes on that.
They do. They have similar sort of this. We're blaming it all on this one ethnicity and / religion. We're blaming all the problems on that. I don't know. It's a weird overlap.
Well, and newsflash, that is actually what Hitler did.
Yes.
That's why That's why, honestly, like my issue comes more to like the terms themselves.
Yes.
So like I don't like the whole like, oh, it's just like right wing woke or the woke right in general, because to me, like, first off, we have to remember some history here. Like, woke used to not be a negative connotation, right? It used to be a positive connotation, right? If you were woke, it was actually seen as a good thing amongst leftist liberal circles, because it meant that you were somehow more enlightened. You were awakened to what was going on. And then eventually, though, because it got so extreme, it became viewed more so and used more so in the common, discussions as a negative. So there was actually a time where there's a bit of confusion because people were using it in a negative way, and there were some who still were using it in a positive way. And so I think that in the negative use case, though, it's always been exclusively to more left-leaning or more liberal social justice type ideas. And so to try to co-opt it now to say woke right just does not actually make a lot of sense, especially since if Elijah Schaffer is going to be basically defending fascism, then that makes him a fascist, not a woke right person. So it's like, let's at least be more consistent with our ideology. We don't have to we do not have to make up new terms when there's already old terms that fit the bill.
Terms like alt-right.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that essentially who we're talking about at the moment?
Yeah.
I think so. And I'm in agreement with you on that, Odin. And I always try to give this caveat is I find myself using the phrase in quotes lately because I'm not like sold on the phrase itself. And more often than not, I'll just call them the fascist. If I'm talking about a fascist, if I'm talking about a racist, like I'll just say this is a racist idea, but there's this branding, which yes, James Lindsay's a big part of trying to coin this phrase woke right. There's this I guess some people think we need a new phrase to describe it, because here's one reason I think they think we need a new phrase is because the woke have abused those phrases like racist and Nazi and fascist and all that so much that there's no
meaning.
That there's a contingent of people who hear it and they're like, like I get called all those things. And so when they say, I'm going to use this word and it's sort of been drained of meaning, I think some people think we need a new word then to explain what we're talking about. I don't know. If we do, I don't think this is the phrase.
Yeah, I thought alt-right had been around for quite a while and kind of fit these fringe groups already. I mean, because you've had Nick Fuentes out there, pretending to be on the right, but I mean, he's so far on the fringe of the right that it's insane. And the people like him. Elijah is starting to sound a lot like Fuentes. So I think alt-right was the fitting description back then and should still be used, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't see how woke and the right ever mix. I see what you guys are saying about, the tactics being used, but woke is a term, completely for the left.
Let me make...
But I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. In the beginning, like when they used to be like, stay woke, it was kind of like stay awake, like stay, to the things that are going on. And there is kind of this segment in the right that they think like, they've seen the light and the rest of us haven't seen the light. And so there is a similarity actually there, I think, even with that word of like, they're awake now. They're awake to the fact that the Jewish people have ruined everything in their thinking, that like they're awake to all this crap that the rest of us don't get. Like, so there is that element.
Right. So it's almost like they're returning to the like traditional understanding of the term woke, where it was the leftists who said we are awakened to the reality of everything going on. But you, Brahma, you mentioned something, and I was actually intrigued because I honestly didn't know the answer. So this is from an AI. So this is from Grok. So take it with a grain of salt. Okay, AI can be incorrect, but basically it mentions that the term alt-right came to be in around the late 2010, like late 2000s. So 2010, Richard Spencer was the one who launched a site called Alternative Right. And as a white nationalist, he tried to bring in a bunch of alternative types of conservatism together. And so it sounds like to me, it has very much its origins in actual like white supremacy stuff.
Yeah,
and the fringe.
Yeah.
It was the fringe, and then I think what happened is it became sort of co-opted and used for people who weren't white nationalists for a while. It became a much broader term. Like what? Because when I first heard it, it was being used for anybody who was like didn't fit into this idea of like neocon. I heard it as like a very broad term, and then it shrunk back down again to just like white nationalists. That's what I saw happening anyway. But now everybody knows it to mean that. So it's like, why can't we just use alt-right to describe this segment of the population? Here, let me show you one more. Again, because people are like, this isn't out there. And I'm like, I keep seeing it. And I didn't used to see it. Andrew Torba down at the bottom. So he's the founder of Gab. I had a lot of respect for this guy too. He's also been increasingly saying very concerning things. And so he's like, basically says you've got two choices: be racist or be replaced. And I just object that on its face. Like, it's sort of like the way I view it is this creeping idea or ideology or whatever that some people are sort of starting to cling to. It's no different. It's like the somebody said it's two cheeks of the same arse. it's like, you know, it's still accepting all the basic premises of woke in the way I view it. It's like basically saying, yeah, okay, woke, the world is a competition for power based on racial identity groups. So, but we're going to pick this identity group and you guys pick that one. And now we're going to battle it out. And I'm like, no, why are you accepting the premise that you have to be that way? You have to be racist to fight the racists? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, and it really is exactly like what the woke did in that segment, where like they, in order to defeat racism, they, you know, college campuses start having Black only library meetings, or, you know, they started doing racist things in the name of ending racism.
Yes, that's what they were doing.
Segregation to fight racism.
Yeah, the leftists I mean, they're experts at using racism to fight racism. Like, we have to do this, right? Here, it looks like, let me read some stuff in the chat. Maybe this will provoke some more conversation. Randy Wallen, thank you, Randy, for $5. Randy says, woke right tries to tie link the ends of the horseshoe. Fascist and racist right and communist and racist left. Both are evil, but not the same. And I know Randy also doesn't like the phrase woke right, but it seems like this is the one most people are using right now. I really hope another one, because before woke wasn't always the term. People called it social justice. Yeah. Maybe another one will emerge that everybody's like, no, we're definitely using alt-right.
Well, and before social justice, it was political correctness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that those are the terms that we've typically used regarding the left. And on the right, I mean, at least in the last few years, we've recently been using, you know, the red pilled, black pilled, or white pilled.
Yes.
You know, that's more how I think most people describe people on the right, and left is the woke and social justice type stuff. So
yeah, and even alt-right itself seemed to be more so something coined by like media personalities. Yes. Though of course, again, it looks like the origins did come from a site actually called Alternative Right. So it doesn't sound like they were very creative in their naming scheme with that. But yeah, it definitely is interesting to kind of look into these, because sometimes we just hear the terms and we kind of just go along with it, and we don't really think about where these things come from. Because with the other one, like with, you know, whether it be being socially aware, social justice warrior, political correctness, all of those things to me are like the same thing. Whereas I feel like on the right, there definitely have been a bit more like almost Frankenstein monsters variations of it, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like on the left, there's very clearly a cult mindset. And whatever the terms we're using, it's always talking about the same exact people, the same exact mindset. Whereas on the right, it seems that there's these pockets of these different groups that are, again, all radical in different ways.
Yes.
Well, and I think Lindsay in the chat kind of nailed it. The right is about individualism and the left has been about collectivism. And I mean, ultimately what these groups are doing is using the intersectionality that woke did kind of introduce or reintroduce to try to separate people into groups again, but on the right. So, I mean, there's a lot of new people that have come into, we'll call it the Republican Party for now, through Trump, and it's bringing a whole bunch of different ideologies that weren't necessarily the original conservative ideologies or liberal ideologies. It's a whole bunch of stuff. There's going to be some clashing, but you should be able to just call racism and evil
racism
by those names. So I don't see the term actually working long term. But
here's an example. After the inauguration, now these are not like, I think the bottom one might have a lot of followers. I'm not sure, but these are random. These are the kind of random accounts I keep seeing more and more of this stuff in my feed. So this guy at the bottom says, I enjoyed J.D. Vance's book. His story is classic Americana, rags to riches. And when he talks and tweets, overall, he seems to say the right things. But this picture just confronts you with the messy realities of globalism. It makes you feel like you're getting hoodwinked yet again. And it's just a picture of him and his wife, who's not white. And it's like, what are you talking about? And then this person quote tweets it with a picture of JD and his little son and says, yeah, it's sad. You want the guys running things to have a stake in the future. And there's some of that. But Vance does not have children who look like him, who smell like him, who even have earwax like him. He's alienated from the future of Americans in a very real sense. Like, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This isn't conservative. This isn't, in my opinion, this isn't, yeah.
That's actual racism is what that is.
Yeah, that is.
It's just blatant racism.
It's just racist, and it's just as racist as when the left says stuff like, you know, white people are evil because they don't have melanin. like what? They're possessed because they don't have melanin.
Earwax? Did the guy seriously bring up earwax?
Yes.
Where did it say that? I didn't see
I didn't realize that earwax had any.
They're trying to.
Earwax was essentially the same. It's kind of the purpose of what earwax is. It's like saying your snot's not the same. What? Gosh.
You don't have. Okay. Just so everyone knows, your earwax, what kind of earwax you have, is determined by genetics, and it can vary. And sometimes among ethnic groups, it can vary. So you could have a stickier or a harder kind of earwax.
Oh no.
Just
Don't
like
tell
your
me that's
skin-
what our future is going to look like, right? When these actual racists try to take over, it's like, are we going to be tested based off of our earwax?
The purity test is an ear swab.
It's like, are you pure? Are you one of us or not? Let's check your ears, son. Wow.
Yeah, it's like the paper bag test. It is for like what shade are you, and how much, what percentage, and what percentage is your earwax hard, and what percentage is it sticky. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
We got sticky earwax over here. Take him out. Take him out.
Okay. Let me just to drive it home. Here's some more. Now, one, like you said, there's all these different groups that are being called alt right or woke right, and one of them is definitely the Groyper contingent. And one of the things these guys like to do, and these guys are in my comments all the time doing this stuff, is they all, in my opinion, you can tell me what you think, but they're co-opting, and I think trying to subvert Christianity and the phrase Christ is King, because they will post really hateful, objectively hateful stuff, and sometimes objectively racist stuff. And then they'll finish it up with Christ is King. And I'm like, wait, stop. Like, don't put Christ's name on that. So, for example, this has been going on this past year, and I'm seeing more of it now. But once you become aware of an international Jewery, it's hard not to say Christ is King, just to force a shape-shifting Jew into exposing itself. Yeah.
Gosh.
This one is quote, like doing a fake quote here of somebody, as if somebody was saying to him, "Oy vey, everyone understands that saying Christ is King is anti-Semitic and therefore should not be said. Is that so?" And then he says, "Is that so? Watch this. Christ is King. Seethe harder, Jew." You know, it's like, okay. Christ is King. Every Jew knee will bow. Waking up to the truth, scary proposition for Jews, I would imagine. Imagine being found out for the murderous liars you really are. Christ is king. And so there's tons of these. I'm not going to force you to look at all the rest, but it's like I do save this stuff when I see it because I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. I had somebody in my comments yesterday saying to me, Jews killed Christ. And I'm like, humans killed Christ? Like, that's you did, I did. If you're going to assign collective guilt, like, then it's collective guilt for humans. And, we're all guilty of sin. We all need Christ. Like, it's just sort of single out an ethnicity and say, this is the bad ethnicity. That's what woke people do.
Yep. Well, and
do they also have a negative view of Romans as well? Do they have the same position of anyone of Roman descent? Because if that's the logic of, because they killed Jesus by handing him over, okay, then you should also be mad at the entire group of people that might also be connected with the people that actually, hammered the nails into the hands of Jesus, who actually put the spear into the side of Jesus. Maybe, but no, that's not what happens at all. Like, this is just, I think, a cover for just blatant, not even anti-Semitism, just blatant racism.
Yeah.
It's been growing and growing since the October 7th attacks. I mean, we've seen it even in some of the louder voices on our side, because pretty sure Candace Owens jumped into this fight about a year ago about the Christ is King thing.
And it just kind of keeps getting crazier and crazier, Brahma.
Yeah. And she's gotten crazier and crazier.
Like, she's that meme of the guy with the board behind him that's got all the things not connected. If it was hers, it'd be the Jews. Like, it's just like ridiculous.
Do you think that this is here's a question. If it is a thing, do you think that it is growing in any kind of way? And even if that's just online at the moment, do you think it's a sentiment that's growing? And if it is growing, is part of it like an op? Are some of the people with large influence who are talking this stuff, is it like on purpose? Because it seems to me that the end goal of this is to try and give more power back to the woke left, because they just suffered a big blow with Trump winning. The population is turning against woke ideology. But if they have this boogeyman to point to and be like, see, oh, wait, I didn't even show you, Odin. One of the things Elijah Schaffer said was, now that Trump won, he was like, we can all stop pretending now. And then he said, I got to find it, but it was like, black people are not Americans. It was something like one of these things. We can all stop pretending now. I was like, I've never been pretending. Like, what are you talking about? You're giving them fodder to point to you and say, see, this is what the right is like. So is it growing at all? Or is it, and if you think it is part of it, like, does it seem like part of it's intentional to like damage the right?
My hope is, right, my white pill view on this, my big hope is that this is all just a scam on their part to try to, make money, and that it quickly falls apart and dissipates. It almost reminds me a little bit of the new atheist movement, right? Where it was in the early days of the internet and it became very prominent in forums, and it really attracted younger people, especially younger guys. Mm-hmm. And it became this huge thing, right? This is a huge boom of atheism that popped up, right? And people thought that Sam Harris and this entire group, that they were somehow these like gods of logic. And now, of course, look what Sam Harris is off to. Like, he's actually been even disavowed by even people that are still atheists who say, wow, no, yeah, you know what? I might still be atheist, but he's an idiot. So it's like, it's kind of how far they've gone. This reminds me a little bit of that, though, right? Where it's what's happening. Now you have this new iteration or this further development of the internet. You now have more and more people, because of cell phones and social media usage, who are now more insulated, who are now trying to find communities online. And I think it's very influential for younger people, because either one, they start off finding it entertaining, and then after a while they become so kind of desensitized to it or so used to it that they start to actually believe the things that they're joking about. So I think I hope it is actually just a grift, and it's exposed very quickly. But the sad thing is, I do think even if it is just a grift, there are a lot of people that are getting pulled along for the ride, unfortunately. And it's a lot of younger people, especially younger men.
Yeah,
sorry, you go ahead.
Go for it, Michelle.
I was just going to say, I actually have hope in what Odin said. I think it is mostly a grift. I mean, I'm going to say that because I think Candace Owens is the grift queen. So I think like people like that are trying to make money off of it. But what's unfortunate is they, people like her are very charismatic. They can be influential, but but that's why I also think people shouldn't be like, if James Lindsay or whoever points it out, don't get on to them, because I think you guys have raised a good point of, you go back to the year 2000. If you told a Democrat that one day, that in 2020, we'll even go back to 2020, the main issue would be trans rights, they would have laughed at you. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? No, we're not going to do that. That's crazy. And then 20 years later, that was the main platform.
20 years later.
Even less time than that. Go back to when Obergefell became the law of the land, right? And when that whole push of was it Prop 8 in California and all that stuff, and everyone was saying within the movement, saying, oh no, it's just about this, and everyone's like, this is a slippery slope, right? If we allow this, then eventually it's going to go this and this is this, and they're like, no, we're not talking about any of that stuff, it's all just about this. And sure enough, what happened in almost no time at all? Oh wait, now it's exactly what people were saying it was likely going to be. I mean,
yep.
And we've reached the point in 2025 where it's necessary for the president of the United States to do an executive order saying, duh, there's only 2 biological sexes.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So
Keri,
that's
I'm
what
wondering
we don't want. We want to stop that from happening.
Right. You don't want the slippery slope. And I think what we may be seeing, and why it may be a little bit more prevalent on Twitter, that you're seeing, is it may just be the merging of, the actual racist and then the actual anti-Semites, and them finding common ground together that they hate certain groups, and you're just seeing them be a little bit more vocal about it.
Yes.
I don't know that there's a whole bunch of new converts to being completely anti-Semitic and completely racist to their core. I think they're just finding each other.
Yeah. And I think it's not helped by groups like the ADL, for instance.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like similar to how everything's been labeled like racist, everything's been labeled homophobic. And so to put people in the same camp, like to put these actual, like, I'm not even going to call them alt-right, I'm going to call them just these actual racists, in the same camp as someone who might say something like, I do hope, like, that they would put me in the same category, because I do have a hope that I do pray that all persons eventually, right, take on and accept Christ as their Lord and Savior.
Yes.
Like, people would say that is seen as somehow anti-Semitic if I say, yes, I hope that Jews find a way to convert to the faith, right? But it's like, that is not the same thing as they're not human beings, they're not having any value whatsoever. It's like, one is actually racist, where the other is I have a hope and I have a belief in who our Savior ultimately is. It's crazy how it's been conflated in that way.
Yes.
Yeah, because that would be no different. Odin, I mean, obviously you know this, but that would be no different than being like, I hope all Muslims come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That all atheists come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ,
It's so funny you mentioned this, because one of my friends who's a Christian writer on X, Jennifer Greenberg, do you guys know her?
No.
So she has a Jewish last name. I think because her husband's Jewish, but they're both Christian, and she's being attacked by these people now, and all they put in the comments is like, Greenberg tells me everything I need to know, and she's like, I'm a Christian. Like, okay, but it's just this sort of like, I don't know, it's this race essentialism or something that's coming out. Let me read a couple of things. I see you guys, and I see there's more disagreement in the chat than usual, which is good. I think it's interesting.
It's good discussion that I'm seeing.
Keri, I put a clip of Candace in the private chat.
Okay, cool.
I will probably have a different take on Candace than most people, I will say.
That's interesting too.
She's grifting on the Catholic Church right now.
KB, thank you for the membership. Whoever got that, that's because of KB. Thank you so much. Randy Wallen for 10. Hey, Randy says, the use of woke right is foolish. It took too long to get woke into the lexicon as a pejorative. To muddy the waters by co-opting the term takes the power out of a hard-earned rhetorical tool. This is my thought. Exactly. I agree.
I think that's smart.
Yeah. And it's also, I think it raises the question of who's actually really been using woke right. Is it primarily people on the right, or is it primarily people on the left? And if it's on the left, then it might be, that's they're trying to basically remove, I guess, woke as being a solely leftist pejorative.
I haven't seen any leftist people using it yet.
Okay.
I've seen mostly James Lindsay and other what you would call classical liberal Trump supporters using it. But as soon as the leftists get a hold of it, they're going to be like, actually, I don't even know if they'll get a hold of it, because their thing is they try to pretend like all of the right is this fringe, radical, racist element. So if they were to differentiate it, I don't know. I don't know if they would do that.
Well, and they've also always refused to look at what we call woke and actually call it woke. The left doesn't recognize it.
Yeah.
They're constantly asking for definitions. They're constantly trying to get around it.
Yeah.
So I doubt they'll use it at this point.
ADL 1982, thank you for the super chat, agrees and says fringe or radical right is more accurate than woke. I think it's less confusing for sure.
Yeah, like the fringe right, or something like that.
And honestly, I think you could even have a semantics discussion on whether these people are on the right at all.
Yes.
like, because a lot of them are pushing for fascism and national socialism. It's like, you're kind of a leftist. Like Bumbledore for $10. Thank you, Bumbledore. Says there's
Bumbledore.
I can't say it that way. There's an obsession in the US with categorizing and labeling everything. It ends up just being a way to demonize groups instead of discussing the validity of ideas. G-Man here. I was trolling earlier. G-Man, I've got your McMaga visor. I might run off screen and get it and wear it. Randy,
it's a good point, though. It's a good point, right? If we're naming, if all we're doing is getting into like name calling and trying to put people into these groups, I mean, that is what Marxism itself is, right? It's about putting people in groups to separate them. So
yeah, we're already losing the intersectionality battle if we're using the terms.
I think that, well, if we're putting people in groups based on immutable characteristics like their identity, I think that's as dumb on the right as when people on the left do it. But if you're coming up with a label so you can talk about something, I think that's important. And so, part of the reason the left hates the term woke so much, and they're always saying, like you said, Brahma, define it, is because they don't want you to be able to call it anything. They don't want you to be able to point to it and say, look at this. This is bad. This is not what it pretends to be. You can't fight against something that you can't even name or give a name to, so that everybody knows this is what the ideology we're talking about, the set of beliefs that we're talking about, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's that whole idea we were talking about backstage. You know it when you see it.
Yes.
I mean, say about woke, you know it when you see it. About this alt-right or woke right, you know it when you see it. I mean, I didn't quite understand what you guys were talking about at the beginning, but it's pretty easy to catch on to. It's literally the fringe. And I agree. It's probably not mostly of the right, even though they would call themselves right, because I mean, the way our politics works anymore, fascism is always of the right, and socialism and communism are always of the left. But in reality, the end point of the right would be anarchy, not fascism. There can be fascists on the right, but anarchy is where the right would technically get to if they got government completely out. Shrunk the government down to the point that there is anarchy. So I've never agreed with fascism being on the right.
I've always viewed the same thing, like where, again, it's all about basic levels of government. So the right is going to have the least amount of government, which is anarchy, and the left is going to have the most amount of government, which is fascism, socialism, communism.
But there can be authoritarians on the right. It's absolutely capable of producing authoritarian. But fascism, to me, is a thing of the left, too. So,
to your point about them not even being of the right, some of the most prominent people who are pushing this sort of racist or ethno-nationalism, authoritarianism kind of stuff, or even outright pushing fascism. One of them is Nick Fuentes of the Groypers, right? And not only did he not vote for Trump, He didn't vote for the Republican or the candidate running on the right. He didn't vote for Trump, told his followers not to vote for Trump. And he's tweeting the same stuff that the left did. He's like, these executive orders suck. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Remember when he was like
Nick
Mr.
believes there are
MAGA?
more than two genders. That's what that means.
What?
I said that means Nick believes there are more than two genders.
Oh.
Yeah. But also remember when he was like Mr. MAGA, like he was all Trump. It's like, I don't know what happened, if he just like if his feelings got hurt, if his little fifis got hurt or something. But
when he showed up to Mar-a-Lago unannounced with Kanye, and then Trump had to disavow him because they told him who Nick Fuentes is, and Trump was like, nope.
Well, I think that, Odin, I think that goes into the grift. Like that, what he was using the grift of MAGA, and then like he's got to get a new grift. So now it's whatever you want to call whatever it is he does now.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of people in the chat who are like, he's a Fed.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of people say that.
Well, he was on camera. You can watch the video footage. I've played it before. On camera on January 6th with a bullhorn telling his followers to go inside the Capitol. And a bunch of his followers got arrested and had been in jail this whole time, and nothing happened to him. And then one of these executive orders that he said sucks is those followers of his being released. So it's like those pardons. So it's like, who are you? Like you're telling people to go in there, and then nothing happens to you, and then the people who went in there and listened to you, they get released, and you're like, this sucks.
Hey, you know what? All I'm gonna say is Pam Bondi, when she gets in, this might be something looking into to say, hey, maybe we should find out a bit more about these federal agents and maybe about these things, because you know what? If you could find a way to have like, hey, there might be some connection here to Fuentes or something, man, wouldn't that be something if it's like all of a sudden, you know, Trump DOJ comes up with, oh yeah, he's been a federal agent or a federal asset
informant or
time.
something.
Yeah, I think Kash Patel will have no problem naming names.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got two more from Randy. Randy for $10, thank you, says, we must look at this as a war. The left does. Schaefer, Owens, etc. are foot soldiers of the left. Their role is to infiltrate through a rear flank and cause chaos. I mean, I'm wondering all kinds of things lately like that. I don't, whether they're intentionally doing it or not, I think that they are serving the left. And he also says, think of it in terms of an attack by the devil. He has 1,000 tools and won't come with a pitchfork and horns. He's a great deceiver. He is leading this attack.
Yep. I'll say, like, that's why my favorite definition of evil is that it is the privation of the good or the absence of the good. So it doesn't actually even necessarily exist within itself. It is rather the absence of something that is actually good. So if you think about any evil, any sin, there's always going to be a positive that once existed that has now been deprived of whatever the good essence was, and that's what has made it into evil.
The privation, that means like the absence of?
Mm-hmm. The absence of, the taking away of, yeah.
Okay, so Michelle sent me a clip of Candace Owens. Okay, have you guys watched this?
Yeah, I don't.
Don't think I've
This
seen
is where we're
this
going to disagree, I think. So
we're going to disagree. Okay, let's see.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Let us pray.
You can take me out
Almighty
for this,
God,
Mark.
Your prophet Jeremiah walked the streets of Jerusalem. Experience your love and your blessing. May it be thy will. And let us say, Amen.
People just pointed out that, you know, who she happened to get out for.
So I saw people criticizing her for that. Well, we may all disagree on this. First of all, I think that if you don't agree with a ritual or a religion that's as a Christian and with a different religion, that's some kind of religious practice or prayer, that some people feel compelled to leave the room during that, and I completely understand that. Also, atheists sometimes, if I pray and they're like, I don't want to close my eyes or be a part of this prayer. Okay, I get it. Because why participate in something that you don't believe in, right? That being said, do I think that she was purposefully choosing the rabbi's prayer? Do I think she left because of a deeply held conviction, or did she choose that prayer so she could get her audience to be like, yeah? I think she did it to get her audience to be like, yeah, you left during his prayer. That's what I think.
Well, it would be different if we didn't have a year of her basically going down this Jewish crazy train rabbit trail that she's decided to go down.
Yeah.
And yet
the context of the year kind of puts it into a different context.
And again, this just might be this might be ignorant on my part, or just might be naive on my part. But then I also like giving people as much as I can the benefit of the doubt. And I've, at this point, for me, have not had a reason to not give her the benefit of the doubt. And her response to it was, I'm so sorry that after 2 years of live streaming, 2 hours of live streaming while 6 months pregnant, I asked my Jewish director to take me out of the shot. So my question would be, we could probably check this. Who is her director? Is he actually Jewish? Because if that's the case, then that kind of just throws the entire thing in the mud. Because I'm sorry, like, you know, to say that she is falling into like the anti-Semitism stuff, yet working with someone who is Jewish would not make any sense at all.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know, because I mean, you just have to go watch her Odin. Like, it's just like Jews bad, like all day, every day. So it's like, yeah, you can have a Jewish director, so you can say you have a Jewish director, but out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
So I know that place that you're at with people, and that's why I said with Schaefer, for example, I gave this long period, and not everybody's reading all the same things I am or watching all the same things I am. And there's people I don't have an opinion on because I haven't given them that time of watching them. But I gave her that long period personally, and I'm finally of the conclusion I don't think that she necessarily believes anything she says about anything. That's where I'm at now. And for a long time,
she started as a leftist grifter.
Yeah.
Then went to the right, and now has gone so far right that she's joined the crazies on that side. So,
but as far as like, I don't want anybody to feel pressure to be like, I have to have an opinion on her. You don't, especially if you're not watching her stuff, or, you know, and I used to really love her stuff and would retweet her a lot and share stuff and was like, this girl's right on. And now I'm like, and then I went through a period of not just watching. And now I'm like, okay, not anymore. That's where
I don't watch her all the time, but the stuff that I have seen, it's not only focused on the Jewish question. I will just say that much. I would say she spends more time going after, in what I think is a hilarious way, a certain leader of a certain country who might be married to a certain trans man. Like that whole thing, which I just find, it's like, I don't know if it's true or not. I just find it hilarious, the whole thing. And like, I think she got sued by them or something, like, or got sent like a cease and desist. And I'm like, oh, for calling his very much older wife an actual man. I don't know. I find that entertaining. That's just me, though.
Macron.
Yeah, Macron. Mr. and Mr. Macron. Yeah.
I don't know if the rumors about his wife are true, but I do know that one of the pictures I saw of her, she looks like E.T. when he put on the wig in the closet.
I love that scene. 80.
The only thing I'll say about her that I will say, if you want to, I would use the word as strong as hypocrite. But at the very least, I'll go back. Like, there's a lot of inconsistency with her. The same woman who wants to get on to women for wearing yoga pants, has Andrew Tate on her show, and that's not a big deal. And the same woman who's supposed to be against porn, but her bestie and her husband's bestie, she'll tell you, is Andrew Tate. So like, something's not lining up here.
Yeah.
She'll, and this has nothing to do with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is the most evil thing ever, but meanwhile, she won't say anything about Kanye and him saying he's God now and all this other stuff. I just find her the most innocent way of putting it, she's very inconsistent. It's almost like I've said, Candace is almost like thinks she's God. She will have mercy on whom she has mercy, and she will judge whoever she wants to judge. Like, there's just not consistency in the thinking process. And like, she lets people she likes get off the hook with literally, everything Andrew Tate does.
Well, the Andrew Tate, thanks for bringing that up because I'd forgotten and I just covered this guy and I can't. This is another part of what's getting lumped in with woke right that I can't stand. Is this guy is out here pretending to be on the right, but also everything he does and says, his whole way of life is against the biblical union between a man and a woman, and he's made his name and his fortune off of sexually exploiting women and scamming men out of their money and bragging about scamming the men. And he's even on X all the time bragging about, you know, how he makes porn. There's this tweet where he's yelling at one of his followers. He's like, I make porn, you watch porn, like you're a loser. And so she, as you said, lately, one of her criticisms of the Jews, not the state of Israel, that's different, the Jews, is she says she's been saying the Jews created pornography. And okay, if you want to talk about what percentage of people working at the porn companies are Jews, have at it. I'd like to see those numbers too. But then you've got this person who's your bestie who created a bunch of porn, made a living off of it, and that's like off limits. Don't talk about that. I agree. I think that's, I don't know. I think it's hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
And now she doesn't believe in dinosaurs.
Yeah, and there's that. There's also
Isn't she like a flat earther too now? I don't know. It's just like everything she can take that's extreme.
I've seen people mention the flat earth stuff.
Like Elijah. I mean,
hearing her talk about it doesn't sound like she's actually a flat earther.
When you start by being grifty and edgy, the only place you can go is edgier and griftier.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way of putting it.
I'm not going to tell you guys one of my biggest conspiracy theories because you'll judge me.
Oh my God. What is it?
It's not flat Earth.
I have to know now.
Yeah.
I have questions.
About the moon landing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I don't think that one's like crazy to have, though. I think a lot of us are.
That's like the OG conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
like, you think about it.
I think a lot of us are like, but why can't we go back to the moon?
Yeah.
I have some questions. They haven't been answered to my satisfaction yet. I would like to be wrong. Yeah. I don't know.
Especially the radiation belts. It's just like, well, I kind of need one. It's like it's an interesting point. It's like I assume it's true. Like I assume we like, again, I have no question. Like, but then again, that to me is kind of that fallacy of appealing to authority. It's like, well, I believe it because that's what we were told and that's what we saw with our own eyes. It seems like, but I think there are some fun and interesting questions that come up with that one.
Fun and interesting, and it's mostly a joke, but also I don't know. And look, no, not flat earther. I think that's absurd. I just have questions about the moon landing, about some of the pictures, and anyway. Okay, do you guys have? Well, Michelle. The Great Sausage Ball controversy is here for $1.99. Michelle, so far you've had a pretty good week.
I have had a good week. It's been. I need some more wins.
Can we talk about the wins for a second? Because I feel like this topic has been so controversial and so fraught with. I'm like, I want to make sure people understand me. Can we talk about what a great week it's been so far?
Yes.
Are you happy with the way things are going with the inauguration stuff? Or
yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought on his speech, I used the term it was both gracious and savage, like at the same time. Like there was grace, like to say what he was saying with the people behind him that literally tried to imprison him. But yet it was savage in the sense they were right behind him. He's basically letting you know, I'm going to correct everything that you guys have screwed up.
He tore them apart, and it was
he
hilarious.
Did.
And then the speech that he gave down at the other group, I mean, those two speeches were maybe two of his best speeches that he's ever given.
And yet they cannot hold a candle to what I think right now has been the best moment, the best sequence of events of his presidency, which is him in the Oval Office signing all the executive orders, fielding questions, and taking on the media at the same time.
Amazing.
Even if you are critical, because for me, there are a lot of criticisms that I have of him. I do not like a lot of things about him. You know, and that's why I'm not your typical MAGA guy. I don't call myself MAGA. I don't wear the MAGA hats or anything. That's just not like I'm very much I'm careful with that stuff.
Are you MAGA adjacent?
I guess I'm MAGA adjacent, right? Because I'm on the show with three
Alt
MAGA
MAGA.
loving people. But like even if you are like kind of like me, where you're like, okay, I could support a lot of the things that you say, but I've got some issues too. Like there's just such Chad energy. Where it's just like he's just like with the pen, and it's just like it's just I think it was a Sharpie actually, because it's like sign in, it's just like, huh, yeah, what'd you say? Oh yeah, let me just tell you this about this while I'm still signing stuff, while I'm still working. And I'm just also like, man, put this up against 4 entire years of Joe Biden, and it's like, yeah, he did more work in that one segment,
2
did
hours.
more conversation, more questions fielded with media in that one evening of 45 minutes of him talking than the entire 4 years of Joe Biden.
I couldn't believe, I was trying to tally it. My husband and I were talking about all the things he did on day one, and it was just incredible. I mean, we talked about the executive order saying there's only 2 genders, but he also, that day they shut down the port of entry at El Paso. He
and shut down the app.
Shut down the app. He did reversed all these like 78 different executive orders or something of Biden's, all this DEI stuff. He rooted out of there. It was just sort of win after win. Like all of this is happening in one day. I can't believe, it felt, I don't know. It just felt like, okay, we're on the right path. And strangely, I think the left has been a lot quieter than I thought they would be. I thought they'd be setting things on fire, which makes me a little nervous, actually, almost too quiet, until they started deciding to call Elon Musk. I guess this is their biggest thing they have, to call Elon Musk a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah. It sounds like things are starting to pick up, though, because I don't know if y'all saw the coverage of the TPUSA event, and the girl who was like, she and the people who were coming to, it was basically she was giving a speech on why there are only 2 genders. And they got chased into a room. This group also set the fire alarm off and were throwing things. It's some pretty crazy videos. So sounds like it's picking up a little bit.
That sounds like a repeat.
It was in
of
Washington State
a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Can I address something in the chat? Because there's the question of like, can we be a Zionist and American first? That's kind of what we're talking about. Like, I don't think anyone on the panel considers himself as
I'm not a Zionist.
I mean, I don't think we are at all. But like, it's like now you're either anti them or you're a Zionist, and it's like, no, that's a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the words that also I'm getting called a lot, and I don't tweet about Israel. I don't know anything about it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm talking about the way people behave and the words they say when it comes to entire identity groups of people. I don't have any commentary on foreign policy there, or I don't know enough. Like, so it's so weird. They're like, you're this, and I'm like, do I know enough to be that?
Now, call me a crusader, and I'll tell you a little bit about that, Okay. I'm not a Zionist. I only, jokingly want to reclaim the Holy Land.
A crusader. I like it. This is just a funny super chat. Thank you, Thomas. Look, please, I want to know more about this. So I love that you sent me this. He's for $5. Thank you. He says, every question you could have about the moon has been satisfactorily answered if you just look for it. I appreciate that. And in particular, you don't have to do my work for me. But if you do have a video you think I should watch, drop it in the comments of this video, because I will watch it. You know what happened is I've watched some videos that raise questions for me, and I haven't seen those questions answered yet. And I should watch somebody answer them.
Is it radiation? Is that what's holding you up?
The Van Allen belt. Yeah. I was like, wait.
The Earth's magnetic poles make it thinner and wider in different areas. So they timed the launch of the ship to where you're passing through it as quickly as possible in the shortest amount of time. So I think they spent a total of a couple minutes exposed to any radiation. Okay. So it's the way the belt works. It works with the magnetic poles of the Earth. So
why haven't we gone back since?
And that's the other question. Why haven't we gone back since? Because what I heard was that we lost the technology to do so.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did it get burned up in a fire? Like, how did they lose? And did the people die that came up with it? Like, that's just not a satisfactory answer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take us down this path. This is why I shouldn't have even mentioned it. That's also why I don't do clickbaity videos about it, because
And then also, who is filming from the outside of the spaceship if he was the first person to walk on the moon, huh? How'd that happen?
Wait, is that a real question people have?
It's one of the things that usually comes up.
By the way, if anybody else has questions, Thomas says, look at Dave McKeegan's channel here on YouTube. Okay, I'm writing that down. I didn't mean to derail. And I don't think that you should be doing videos about flat Earth or moon landing or anything unless you really know what you're talking about and have a strong opinion. And I don't. And that's why I'm not going to do a clickbait like, is the moon landing real? Although I'm going to go change the name of this video now.
Real.
Okay, anything else you guys want to say about this? I know we just touched our toe into it, but I at least wanted to hear what both of you guys thought. I kind of talked about it with Michelle a little bit in DMs and stuff. I wanted to see, do you even see this stuff? And I appreciate you giving your perspective on it.
Happily, I don't. And that's, again, I think a beauty of the following section on X is that you don't have to worry about looking at that kind of nonsense most of the time. So,
and for me, I think it's something to keep our eyes out for and keep our eyes on it to make sure that it isn't something that just starts spreading. But I see it as just old school racism. It's just being named something else. So
yeah, it really is kind of racism. And I mean, to bring this back to a Christian point of view, Odin already used the scripture from Galatians that there's neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female, slave nor free. It goes through we're all one in Christ. So yeah, there just really isn't any room for hating the Jewish people, hating anyone of any race. Like, it's just, there's zero room for that. In fact, John would say that you are not his disciple if you have hate towards your brother, and even just that, like, it's no, that's just, they do not go together.
Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly. You shall know them by their fruits.
Yeah. And hate doesn't go with like that true hate. I'm not saying the way the media will say, oh, you hate the the trans or things like that just because you don't agree with it. I mean, in that case, they truly have hatred for those people.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being willing to talk about this and wade into a more controversial subject. I appreciate all of you, your perspective, and thank you guys in the chat for being here and being very civil with one another as you disagree. The only person that I took out of the chat was a Satanist because it's so boring.
I think it was honestly a troll that was just trying to get a. That's how it came across to me.
Oh, I gotta go find him and unblock him then.
No. Like I think it's totally like it wasn't like a fun troll. Like, I have pet trolls in my chat. This was like an actual, like, someone who was just trying to be a jerk to get a rise out of people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just ask one question, because John here says, I disagree with you, therefore you hate. No, that's not. No.
No, he's saying that's a flawed mortal.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he's just agreeing with what I'm saying. Like how the where are we going? Hold on, is he saying that? Yeah, he's saying what I said about what the left does. Like, you disagree with me, you're a bad person. No.
It's like you won't call me by my preferred gender pronouns. You hate me. And it's like, no, that's not what hate is.
Yes. And the issue is, and I'm so sorry, John, that I misread that, is because that's what I'm now hearing. Okay, because the woke has made those words meaningless, and because they're like, this is racist, you're racist, Milk is racist, Michelle's racist, that, going to the gym is racist, that now if you point, I'm finding this to be true, if you point to something that's objectively like the real OG definition of the word racist, where it's like, I hate all Black people because they're all like this or whatever, and you're like, it's racist, then people are like, oh yeah, everything's racist now. Like, no, that is objectively racist. Like, it still means something. It sucks. Like, they're like, I just disagree with you. Like, no. You're saying something. These words actually used to have a meaning. They still have a meaning.
So I actually do have to go.
Okay.
So I'm just going to jump off, but thank y'all.
Thanks,
all right, bye.
I'm going to plug one quick thing. Friday, the 1st of February, come to the knitting deprogrammed meetup in Grapevine, Texas, and I'll post it in the community page so you know what I'm talking about. That's all. Okay, guys, do you have anything you want to plug that's coming up for you?
Yes, if you need a good laugh, go over to Force Flight Entertainment and watch Natalie and I react to watching Loaded Weapon 1 for the first time. It was pretty funny. We had fun with that.
And if you enjoy the political talk, come check out my show on Sundays.
I want to come to your show possibly this Sunday if you have room.
Yeah,
I would love it.
You're welcome anytime.
Cool.
Plus, it'll be a fun week going over everything that we've gotten accomplished in the first few days.
That's why I want to just have like another celebratory,
like
election night. I spent most of it thinking it wasn't real. I didn't really
you were
celebrate.
freaking out most of the night.
I was like, this can't be real.
I remember at one point I had to tell you, Keri, it happened. You can stop worrying at this point. It's already I was like, no, done.
They're going to jerk it from the jaws of freedom. They're going to. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Later, everybody.
Bye.